Hello, Marcielle here, and I'd like to share with you one of my applications called iMindMap. And what I like about iMindMap is that I've created a basic mind map here, but the latest version allows me to create 3D presentations. So if I click here on 3D mind map, and you can see that it's now in 3D, and it means that I can spin it around. But what I also like is the feature if I click presentation. The moment I click presentation, it allows me to give you a quick basic overview of whatever it is I want to present. So in this case I want to show you basics about mind maps. So for example, one of the things that you should do when you have a mind map is to consider using colour. Whether you're hand drawing this or whether you're using the computer version, a bit of colour makes it more memorable, especially if you're using mind maps for exams, and it's one of the tools that I use to get through my degree, and the more colour I use and the more details, the more I remembered it. The other thing is that colours are a very good way of associating themes. For example, I used to use orange for anything to do with sociology. You might use, for example, green for creativity. And you can also use the colours for action. So for example, these days I use green to tell me there's something that I have to do. Sometimes I use red for something that I need more information on. Mind maps work because they run on images, and with images you can draw your own images and import them, or you can also take photos, and these days with all the devices taking photos this is a lot more possible. But most mind map programs will allow you to embed a drawing or to use one of the preset clip arts. Interestingly, notice the lines. Well, it's really important that the lines have a wave and that they start off from a thick base and that they end up in a thin. So start from the thicker line and end in a thinner line, and that way it'll connect very similar to how our brain connects, according to Tony Buzan. And thinking apparently is very organic for us. We associate things by assimilation. The other thing that's important, the other part that I think is important, and it was the hardest part for me to learn, is to do with words. Stick to one word for branch, and that's difficult because sometimes you'll need, say, 3 words and it's very hard to summarize. But with practice you get better at using one word at a time, and it's the key to successful thinking and helps you to summarize some of the key points. The other thing is that you can use the different fonts in the words for emphasis, and you can also find yourself using colour again for those emphases. Mind maps can be drawn by hand, and they also can be done digitally. The one that you're looking at here is a digital representation, but an enormous proportion of my mind maps over the years have been also by hand. You can use a computer. These days I use a smartphone to draw my mind maps, and I have an application on my iPad device, and what I like about the iPad, I simply put my finger in the middle and drag it out. So there's a lot of smart technology and a lot of applications now available for all sorts of mind mapping. So if you do a search for mind mapping tools, you'll get a variety of different types. I personally have been using the iMindMap that was created by Tony Buzan, but in the labs we also have the Inspiration, which is another educational mind map, and there's a lot of other varieties, but don't confuse them with concept maps because they are different. The other thing that is interesting to know, that when you are drawing a mind map, whether it be by hand or on paper, it's a great idea to have it landscaped and to start your key idea at the centre of the page. So, mind map basics. When you have the structure of your idea ready, you can use what's called your basic order of ideas, and when you have a mind map that's electronic, this becomes a lot easier because you might get your ideas and draw them and you can move them around. That's not so easy when you're drawing, because once you've put pen on paper you'll have to rub it out, and that's one of the things that I don't miss, and I find the new electronic versions of mind maps a lot easier to draw. But I also found that drawing them by hand also makes them very memorable because of the amount of effort that you might put into that mind map. The other tip that I have is, when you can, put them up on a wall, particularly if it's for an exam or for something that you want to develop an idea further. Make sure it's visible somewhere for you to look at. That way you're always visiting. It's a visual tool, so don't just lock it away as a file or under your bed. Make sure that you have it out and ready, and so you can keep adding to it. Make sure that when you do your structure of a mind map, that your basic order of ideas and the way you're presenting the ideas are clear, and that the order, where possible, that you can make it A, B and C. Because mind maps being a visual thing, you can actually order your ideas far better on a mind map than you can thinking out loud. And also, that a mind map allows you to reflect the way the brain's thinking. For example, the brain, it's connected to nature as it's also connected to you and your experiences. So that's our basic presentation on mind maps. Now, did you pick up the mistake? Notice here I have ideas. Well, this is what I like about a mind map. When you find your mistakes, you can go straight in, you can open up your mind map, you can find where you've created a mistake and expand on your ideas, and it's just a matter of going in there, right mouse click, or you can just change ideas. There you go. So, over to you.